The one thing I want to say to the camera is, this is to our president. President Obama remarks often that it's been 2 Father's Days in a row, Father's Day years in a row, where he admonished fathers, and especially African-American fathers, to step up to the plate. Well, I'm an ex-baseball player, almost went pro years ago. So my analogy is, when the fathers step up to the plate, we get a fastball right between the eyes. So I just want the world to know the truth of what really happens. I'm not a teenage dad. I'm not a dad who doesn't work. I don't have a criminal past or an anger management problem. Yet my little boy is growing up without his father.
Okay.
You're going to tell me all together your name, how old you are, your kids' names, and how old they are.
Okay.
And you're going to be looking right in here.
Okay.
My name's Tom Porter.
Wait, we do it all together. Your name.
My name's Eric Jacobs, and my son is Dominic, and he's 2.5 years old, and I am 48 years old.
My name is Sean Fletcher. I'm 37 years old. I have 3 children.
My name is Maurice Jackson. I'm 51 years old. I'm single, and I have a son, Jeremiah, that's 3 years old.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Williams, and I'm 47 years old. And I have a young son, Marcel's 11 years old, and my oldest son is an adult at 27 years old.
My name is Brian Masterson. I'm from Severna Park, Maryland. I'm 44 years old. I have 3 children, Anna Lynn, Alexandra, and Brady. And specifically, Anna Lynn is why I'm here today regarding the situation that I've had and the struggles with her mother. Well, presently, I have arrived to what's called a shared custody arrangement. This has been a 9-year struggle from when Anna was really first born. We never married, and I believe that's probably the biggest source of some of the aggression. But hundreds of thousands of dollars to obtain what I finally have here, and I was fortunate enough to have some money at that point in time, which I no longer have, but I do have basically Anna with me now about 43% of the time. But that took, a 7 to 8 year struggle. The skill set of probably a third attorney, just a ridiculous amount of difficulty in having the time with Anna. Just, the mother would just simply take the child, not be there when it was, my time. Finally, we've got the right judge, a skilled attorney who really went out there and fought for this, and that's where we are. That's where we are today. The struggle was long, though. I was not charged. She went to the court system and used a domestic violence form to gain the custody right away so that she could have the child. Then I think within 7 days you have a right to go before the court. And once we got there, that was certainly, thrown out because none of that occurred. But that was used as a tool to gain a leg up in the custody. It's heart-wrenching to go through those things, especially when, Anna was a baby, and I didn't relinquish my wanting to be a parent. The tears, you wonder how you got into this, why this struggle keeps going on, and how it keeps staying in place. So you have sleepless nights, tears, things of, why can't the other side be reasonable so that we can all do the best thing for Anna? So she has everybody in her life, the grandparents on both sides, the aunts, the uncles, and now as she's the oldest now, she has a brother and sister, and it's just anguishing. The best word I come up with is heart-wrenching, and it bleeds you, it just emotionally bleeds you and drains you, and you can't stay focused. And without support of others, family and friends, it's impossible to get through it. I would tell her that your daddy never quit on you. Your daddy fought every day, not fought, but tried every day to have reasonable relationship with your mother. And I don't want to say anything bad about your mother, but she made it very difficult for our relationship to keep going on. But your daddy never quit on you. He loves you as much as he loves Alexandra, as much as he loves Brady. And you are always the first thing in my mind and the last thing I think about when I lay my head down, wondering what you're doing, how you're doing. And it's only by God's grace and that I think this struggle has come to, it's not over, but your daddy never quit on you. He never quit on you.
I think the problem stems from this archaic view that a mother is always a caretaker and a father is always a breadwinner. And I think that the 70s Women's Lib movement has had a lasting impact on this, because I think that, this was the system that we currently have was designed to address, two parents that marry early, have children, the woman takes care of the kids, helps the man build the business, and then once he acquires success and wealth, he abandons the woman and children. And that's simply just not the standard these days. That's not the most common situation, certainly not in Baltimore City, but even across other parts of Maryland. Hi, I'm Jill Carter, and I represent District 41 in the Maryland House of Delegates. This past session, I sponsored House Bill 956. That was a bill that called for a rebuttable presumption of joint custody and a preference for equal parenting time. Well, first of all, let me just also make it clear, we're talking about 500,000 children in Maryland that live in houses where they don't have a family unit with a mother, father living in the house with them, where there is going to be some type of determination of custody. And within the realm of the 500,000 children that are impacted by this, 85% of custody determinations in Maryland award primary or sole custody to the mother, and relegating the father, of course, to being a non-custodial parent. And more often than not, the distribution of visitation is 2 weekends a month, maybe once during the week, and a couple of weekends in the summertime and some time on holidays. The rebuttable presumption of joint custody simply would allow for a court to view each parent equally when the parent walks into the courtroom. And then, of course, we're not talking about a fit parent versus an unfit parent. We're not talking about someone who doesn't want to be involved in his or her child's life. We're talking about people equally situated, equally suitable, equally competent, equally interested in being parents. And so what this bill would have done is just create a rebuttable presumption. Right now in Maryland, we have a standard best interest of the child. And of course the opponents of this legislation argue, well, the standard of best interest of the child is effective. That's the best standard we can have. Of course, that might be true if we were just talking black letter of the law, but what we know is that the law as applied doesn't work. It results in unfair and unequal distribution of custody. Now let me just explain what happened. I was relatively new. This was 2004. I'd only been there since 2003. And for the first time ever, a bill that called a very similar bill, rebuttable presumption of joint custody, passed my committee, the House Judiciary Committee, and made it to the House floor. And we don't even get to debate it on the floor. We don't even get to vote for it on the floor. The Women's Caucus pulls the women off of the floor. They do a House walk-off. They will not even debate the issue. I was stunned and amazed. And I'm also told that it's the first time in the history of any of the legislature that a bill has, caused that reaction. It's very troubling, because if you believe in your argument and if you know that you're right, you don't run from debate. It's really dishonest and it's hypocritical for the opponents of this legislation, who tend to be women's lobbyists and domestic violence advocates, to contend that this is not in the best interest of the children, because the system as we have now simply is the father writes a check, the check goes to the mother. There's really no accountability, and of course I'm not making an argument that mothers aren't responsible and they aren't taking care of the children, certainly not. But the bottom line is that what this would do is give the child equal access to both parents, so the father's more than the paycheck. And some of the problems that we have where, there's reluctant fathers or fathers that are, resentful that they have to pay child support, that would be alleviated, because if they had more time with their children, if they were treated more fairly by the courts, they'd willingly pay what they need to pay. And also, I think the idea that if there were equal distribution of custody, the father doesn't have to write a check, because the father is giving equal care. This is an issue of fairness, it's an issue of civil rights for children, it's an issue of equal protection under the law, and it's an issue of justice. It's all of that. It's a common sense fairness issue, and I can't stress enough the hypocrisy of saying it's in the best interest of a child to have one custodial parent and another visitor that writes a check, not even to the child, but to the custodial parent. That's better than equal time with both parents or each parent. It's just ridiculous.
So I was unable to maintain this luxurious support that I was giving my ex-wife, maintaining the house and all this. Hobbled into court. I never forget, I had a surgery at George Washington Hospital. 11 days later, we go into court, dress myself up, I'm tired, and we asked for a modification of the amount that I'm paying for child support. Because what they did was took what I was paying and just signed it in agreement, even though it wasn't court ordered. The judge refused to reduce my child support payment. He told me I, willfully impoverished myself. Even though we had the doctor's reports and the surgery, what he told me is, well, everyone has issues in their lives and they still manage to make money. I think you're ducking your child support. Now granted, my son was 8 years old by this time and I hadn't missed a single child support payment. What he did, he jailed me for 6 months. All my cash is gone. I had just spent, $100,000 trying to get custody of him just the previous month, and this is the same judge who saw me do all these things. My spotless child support record. I'm hauled off right there. I couldn't even take my briefcase with me. I'm in a suit and tie, hauled off in like a criminal in chains, suffering from kidney failure and just gotten over this infection. I'm in jail being processed, and the guards ask me, "What are you doing in here?" The deputies. I tell them, the first thing they ask me, "Who's the judge? What's the judge's name?" And I told them. They were all, even the deputies were upset. Half of them had been through a similar situation where their paychecks had been garnished, you know. And I remember one guy did his best. He was apologetic. He fingerprinted me, and he says, "Hang in there, sir. I went through this with my son, and now my boy, when he turned 18, he joined the Marines, and he looked me up. Now he's 25, and we're the best of friends." And what I told him is, I don't want to wait till my boy is 21 or 18 to look me up. I want to enjoy his childhood. You know, what if he never looks me up? So I spent 2 nights in jail, 3 days without my medication. Friends and family run around. Now this is the thing that really got me. I had to pay cash. I had to post a cash. It wasn't even a bond. I had to pay cash to get out of there. It was $8,000, which I didn't have. So my friends and family scrambled, put this money together, some of my investor friends, and I got out of jail 3 days later. And brought back into court 2 months after that, my ex-wife still demanding back child support. Now by this time I'm trying to send her little checks, and I never know where they live. I knew my ex-wife was angry, but I realized she was withholding my checks, not cashing them. So when she went back to court 3 months later, she tried to tell the court I was not sending checks, but I had copies of all the checks. But I was made to pay another $24,000 back to her. And, you know, just financially ruined. That was, the last court date was 2 years ago, and I'm just finally getting myself back on my feet. And as a result, my doctors have told me my kidney function's up, you know, I don't need dialysis or anything. They told me, look, keep the stress out of your life, even if it means, if you don't see your son, if it means you're not interacting with your ex-wife, you need to think of your health first, because if you're dead, you won't be there for him at all.
Okay, so this is what you need to do. My name is blah, blah, blah. My parents are married, separated, divorced, or never got married.
My name is Christine Miller, and my parents were never together.
My name is Rajon Epps. My parents never got married.
My name is Stephanie Battle, and my parents are separated.
My name is Mercedes, and my parents never got married.
My name is Jason Morgan, and my parents never got married.
My name is Day Day, and my parents are, I would say, never married.
My name is Mariah Kemp, and my parents never got married.
My name is Devon Tickley, my parents were never married.
My name is Paula Bedra, and my parents are separated.
My name is Stephen Lakeith Hutton. My parents are divorced.
My name is Nicole Johnson, and my parents are separated.
Is this like a trick thing?
My name is Darrell Grant. My parents are separated.
My name is Terry Reed, and my parents never got married.
My name's Eliza Williams, and my parents were divorced.
Hi, my name is Mariah Davis, and my parents never were married.
My name is Rasheen, and my parents are separated.
My name is Romano Flowers. My parents are separated.
They never been married?
They never been married.
My name is Dominique Fox, and my parents were never married.
My name is Morgan, and my parents were never married.
My name is Dante Bailey, and my parents were married, and they are now separated.
One word is to describe the child support system: unfair. Because it seems like it's always going to the men, not allow women to pay child support, no matter the situation.
My name's Eric Jacobs, and my son is Dominic, and he's 2.5 years old, and I am 48 years old. I'm here today as more of an advocate for Dominic, for my child. When we separated, Dominic was essentially, at least from my perspective, used as a pawn, and I had very little access to him. I saw him, I calculated, I'm an engineer, so I calculated the numbers. I had him about a little under 6% of the time. And my choices really were to be more aggressive and adversarial and take him, or basically to do what was best for him and try and minimize the conflict. I've done some research, I've done a lot of studying on the topics. I know that the number 1 issue with the child, my wife and I, my ex-wife, had conflict, and that's about us, and we're adults, and we need to deal with that as adults. Dominic's an innocent victim. He didn't deserve this, he didn't sign up for it, and it's my responsibility and I feel our responsibility as parents to give him the best shot he can. The statistics and the data, and the number 1 thing is to minimize the conflict between the parents. So I had to make a really tough choice to not escalate, to try and whatever I could do to minimize the conflict on behalf of our son, and that meant that I had very limited access to him. Fairfax County, right in the process of my separation, stopped hearing pendente lite, temporary custody issues because of budget, because of a number of factors that they're too busy, and I get that they're too busy. My only concern is that there should be some kind of limits to it. So as long as it's it doesn't even have to be 50-50, 60-40, something reasonable. And then on the other side, those limited times when I do see him, it lights up my life. And I see that it can impact things and show Dominic things, and that makes life for me. That makes it worth living. Almost every time I return him. Because while we were separated, I never knew when I was going to see him next for certain. I'd get calls, I'd say at 10 o'clock, say, oh, if you want to see Dominic, 10 o'clock in the morning, if you want to see Dominic, you can see him from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock today. And it was just all being used, but I drop everything and run for it. But yeah, every time when I said goodbye to Dominic, and I never knew when I was going to see him again, all the time. Or when I see Dominic when he said things or when he does things that just kind of wrench your heart. Even as a 2.5-year-old, it's like I want to go to Daddy and Dominic's house. I want to go to I want to play with that. I want to play with my trains, my toys, or whatever it is. It's like material, but it's just the underpinnings of all that is just yeah. Just a lot of times you got to take a step back and just sit in the car after he goes back. I just gotta just decompress. Just kind of compose myself again, really.
My name is Dr. Linda Nielsen from Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm a professor of adolescent and educational psychology and also the author of Between Fathers and Daughters, How to Enrich and Build a Better Relationship with Your Father. I would like to see, after the parents stop living together, whether that's divorce or just a couple that splits up, I would like to see the young women in our country, the daughters in our country, have their fathers actively in their lives, not just through childhood, but until the father is no longer on this earth. I feel as a country we are a long way from what I would like to see happen.
Why?
Why? First, we don't take fathers seriously in this country. We really do not take men seriously as parents. We take men seriously as banking machines. We take you seriously as wallets. We take you seriously when we say, show me how much you love me, by giving me, by buying me. We make you feel very loved when you can come up with cold hard cash. But beyond your financial giving, I think basically as a country, we still see men as bankers and not as fathers. Well, you know, the thing is, when I'm teaching students, and the damage, what I've seen for the last 40 years is I see the aftermath of what the parents have done. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a 20-year-old daughter who tells me, oh, I get along fine. I don't need my dad. I don't need my dad. He's a jerk. He's an idiot. He's this. He's that. I don't need my dad. I never even think about him. I don't think about him. And I say, well, tell me something. How's your relationship with your boyfriend? How's your relationship with, or how's the last relationship? How'd that go? Well, what does that have to do with this? I said, it has everything to do with it. Because I'll tell you right now, your father is still in your life through the way you relate to men. And that is what most young women are doing. You think you've put your father down 10 miles ago. No, you aren't. You are still carrying him because he is a part of your life. And what I say to young women is, you need to start seeing your father through your eyes and not through your mother's eyes.
The mother. Because the mother always knows how to take care of her child.
The mother. Because she's the one that's gonna, the father is meant to work in my idea. Like, in my world, a father is meant to work. So, who's gonna watch the child?
I think they should live with their mother just because she birthed them, like she said, she birthed them, and I think they'll be closer and they'll learn a lot more from the mother than they will from their father.
The mother? Because the mother is the foundation. The mother sets the tone.
I would say their mother, just because she birthed them, held them for 9 months, and mothers are just, more caring, more nurturing. Not that fathers aren't, but I would just say the mother, the father, men don't have time. I would just say the mother. I might not even have a good reason, but just the mother.
I don't think the child should just live with one parent. They should probably go back and forth and get equal amount of time with both parents, because it's not good to shut out one parent from the child's life.
Whoever is the most financially stable and shows himself approved, then I feel like whether mother or father doesn't really matter.
Whoever's capable to provide for them more.
They should live with their mother because their mother birthed them.
The mother. Because I feel like mothers are more patient and more supportive of their children, and fathers are just there for protection and brute strength, but the emotional part children need as they grow up.
The mother. Because a mother can take care of children better than men. I believe the children can go with the men, the father on weekends or something, but they have to live with the mother.
I think the child should live with the mother. I feel like the mother is more nurturing. The mother can play both roles, in my opinion, the mother and the father. That's just how I feel. I mean, that's how I've experienced it. My mother, I've been raised by my mother, and she did both, and I'm perfectly fine. I'm fine without my father, so.
I receive hundreds of emails. 90% of those emails are not from daughters. 90% of those emails are from fathers. My aha moment was the person who's in pain here. We recognize the daughter's pain. Okay, everybody thinks, oh, these poor children whose fathers aren't in their lives. My aha moment is realizing we're not recognizing the father's pain. We're only thinking of this in terms of father absence, how it affects the child. What are we doing to millions of men in this country millions of men, old men, young men, black men, white men, pink men, purple men, educated men, uneducated men, we're taking their children away from them. One of those moments actually happened right here in my office. I was getting ready to go and teach my class. I teach a class on children of divorce, and I teach a class on fathers and daughters. I was getting ready to go to class, and I came in to pick up something from the office, and the custodian was here in my office changing the light overhead. I walked in, I'm getting ready to walk out, and he said, "I saw your book," because I leave my book on the table here about fathers and daughters. He said, "Would you mind if I ask you a question?" He says, "Because my daughter has not talked to me for 4 years, and I wondered if you had any advice for me." That's a man changing a light bulb in my office who takes the time to look on a desk and see a book, and he's reaching out for some help. Those are the overlooked millions. Those are the fathers who are changing a light bulb and desperately seeking some light to help them through the pain of all these lost children. It's everywhere, and the stories are everywhere. And it breaks my heart because I can't change the basic, what I see as the basic problem, which is letting men be the parents they can be. Not just letting and encouraging, but leave them alone. Quit instructing these men in how to be fathers. Quit telling them how to baby the baby and take care. Leave them alone. These men know how to do this. We do not need, as women, to treat our men as children.
I'm Tom Porter. I'm 45 years old. I have 2 children, Hunter, my daughter, who's 13 years old, and Chance, my son, who's 10 years old. Been fighting for over a decade to be part of my kids' lives. I'm a lot different from others because I tried trial and error. I learned the legal system and spent most of my time doing my own case.
How's that worked out for you?
Probably 50-50, which means I learned the system really well. Because 50% is a lot better than most guys get, even with an attorney.
I'm listening.
It's been hard. I mean, you just spend learning the legal system outside of a school is really hard. You spend what you don't spend in money, you spend in hours.
Have you spent more time with your attorney or with your kids?
My attorney. 2 years ago, I had custody. And through legal wrangling in a very messed up jurisdiction, I lost custody on appeal, partially because of technical error, partially because of court politics. My ex's attorney was appointed by the judge who heard the case as a substitute judge, so good old boy politics played a lot into it. But because of that, I lost custody. My daughter I see constantly. My son I don't see. He hasn't come to see me in 2 years. He called me the other night and told me that he put down his stepfather as his father on his soccer application. And I have emails from him calling me a piece of shit, telling me he's not going to come see me until I pay his mother child support. It kills me. It tears my heart out. I mean, it shouldn't.
It should.
Because it's a 10-year-old boy. He doesn't even know what he's saying. What tears my heart out is that my ex would go to the trouble of manipulating a 10-year-old child. Anybody would go to the trouble of manipulating a 10-year-old child, let alone my 10-year-old child, to that extreme. But my consolation, which is what I tell other fathers, is over time, your kid will figure it out. I know in my heart, my kid will figure it out.
But what does that do to your heart today?
It doesn't stop from tearing my heart out today. Chance, I've spent over a decade. I've sent the message to my daughter before you were even born. I've sent the message to your sister that I could never look at you in the eye as an adult and say that I gave up on you because it was too hard or too painful. Because as your parent, I need to teach you to go through adversity in life and come out a better person on the other side. There are days when I'm not sure I have the strength to be any better a person. But I want you to know that I have fought tooth and nail. Every single ounce of energy I have, every tooth in my head, every hair on my head, to be a part of your life, because I think I have something valuable to give you as a human being.
My name is Mike McCormick, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Coalition for Fathers and Children. We're based in Washington, D.C. We are actually a divorce reform and shared parenting organization. We're working on improving family law around the nation, and our mission statement, in a nutshell, is that we want to see people who are affected by divorce and the breakup of the family, or in cases of unmarried parentage, be treated equally in the courts. So I just look at what the data tells us, and the data is telling us that the family court system in this country is just very out of whack. We are not doing what is in the best interest of our kids, and when we're not acting in the best interest of our kids, we're typically not acting in the best interest of their parents either, and their extended family. So if we go and drill down into the data, it's very evident that there is a tremendous amount of inequality in the family courts today. Generally, as you go through the divorce courts in the country, there's about 1 million couples a year that go through the divorce courts, about 1.2 million children that are affected in the courts that actually experience their parents' divorce as well. And if you look at the breakout of what happens, about 85% of the time, mothers are awarded either sole custody or primary residency of the children. There's been a movement over the last 30 years to award a lot more joint custody, but the question is really not whether or not you have joint custody, but how much time do you have with your children? If 85% of the time children were being awarded to fathers and mothers were only spending 20 to 25% time with their children, that would be a situation causing me an equal level of heartburn. That shouldn't be the case. Children actually want both parents fully engaged in their life. That's what the research is telling us. That's what the adults who experience their parents' divorce as children are telling us that they would have liked to have had, reflecting back on that experience. So when we look at this and what we're doing at ACFC, stated public policy in this country has always been, let's have strong families. We need strong families in America. Yet what we have is we have a system of bureaucracies and actual policy and statutes that don't serve to strengthen these fragile families. What it's doing is it's breaking those families apart. Our first comment on this is that whenever people call us, and we get thousands upon thousands of calls a year for assistance, the first thing that we tell people is, can you save your marriage? Can you save your relationship? If that is not going to be the case, then what we say is, let's work to craft a parenting plan that keeps both of you maximally engaged in the life of your children, and your children maximally engaged with you. That's what we know. When children have a full relationship with both of their parents, even if the parents don't live together, that produces the best outcomes for children in these situations. In Illinois, we have a family law study committee that's charged with rewriting the statutes in Illinois at this point that affect marriage. The Illinois statutes were first enacted in 1977, the current statute. So we've gone 30 plus years without any significant revision to the statutes. 30 plus years ago, it was axiomatic that the kids went with the mother and the dad went away and paid child support. We're still operating under that paradigm across most of the country. Here we have a process where parents who are by and large fit are going to be contesting over who's going to remain the primary influence in the life of their child. That's a skewed platform to begin with. So what we have is a man takes a look at that situation, and as his children are being removed from him, what he tends to do is he'll get angry about that situation. When you look at a mother in the same situation, what she'll tend to do is get sad about that situation. So she'll tend to cry at the prospect of losing her kids. He'll tend to become angry and fight. And what our society has done is said, her emotion is valid, his emotion is aberrant. But that's a difference between men and women. The exact same situation, and if you look at the response that takes place in that situation, you see a completely different approach to the exact same situation. In one case, we're condoning this and saying this is okay. In the other one, we're saying, well, that's proof that there must be something wrong with you, and that's justification to remove your child. If you get angry in a courtroom about your child being taken away from you, then opposing counsel will say, oh, this person has an anger issue. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, take my kids away and see if I don't get angry about it, right? But society has said that's not a proper reaction. So you're penalized for your natural human emotion when faced with the situation of the removal of your children.
My name is Hans Olson. I'm 42 years old. I have two daughters. They are Clara Honor Olson and Eliza Dare Olson. They are 7 and one just turned 6 yesterday. Yes, this is a picture of them when we went to New York. We went to the M&M store in Times Square, and it was one of the best days that we had. I brought a picture today because that's all I have anymore is the pictures and videos, and my house's walls are covered with pictures of my children. I haven't seen my children in over 2 years. 2 years. They live a mile, 1.9 miles away from me also. Basically, my ex hasn't wanted me to see them since our divorce started. She's been very angry and has done everything she can to make sure I don't ever see my kids again. She stated that, and she's done everything she can to do that. Since the very beginning, we've been to court 12 times now, and every time we go to court, I'm given another hurdle to jump. I jump higher and higher, and I'm issued more hurdles, and you have to do this to see your kids, you have to do that to see your kids. I've done everything the court has asked me. I've paid every fee the court has asked me. I've never been late on any payments. I've done everything for my children, and I'm left with not being able to speak to them, not being able to see them. And I can't tell you how heartbreaking it is. I can't tell you what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night and wonder where your children are. I miss them so much. It's a day that goes by where I don't think about them.
Take a break for a second.
Oh, I'm okay. I've gotten used to this. People tell me that I have time on my side, but it doesn't feel that way. I say, what do you mean? They say that, well, they'll be 18 one day, they'll be able to be back to you. It doesn't make every day easy. I think her anger has clouded her so much that she doesn't see what it's done to the kids. I just want to raise a flag and say, you win. I'm hurt. I'm devastated. I'm ruined. I always wanted to be a dad. My parents didn't do a very good job, and they got divorced, and I always promised my children, when I had children, I would do a better job, and I did a great job. And just because I couldn't do a great job in my marriage doesn't mean I can't do a great job being a father. And there isn't anybody that doesn't say that, my children miss me and tell me how much they love their father and they wish they could see me. They're not saying those things. The mother's saying those things. I never imagined things would be like this. I never imagined I would be in the court over 30 times in 5 years. I never imagined the things that would be said in order to take my children from me. The things that aren't true, and just the way the system works. It's devastating to the children. And no one looks at the children. Last time I was in court, my attorney said, Your Honor, what about these children? And the system's just set up that it's not thinking about the kids. These poor guys, I'm talking to guys been going through for 10 years, I'm like, 10 more years. It's devastating. I miss my kids. I miss my daughters. They need their dad. They need their dad. No one understands that.
The advice is tough for me because, I was brought up in a household that when you do right, things work out. You abide by the system. I'm one of those guys, Mr. Citizen, Army for 20 years, pay my bills on time, do what's right, follow the law. That it's really jarred my belief. And number one, in our foundation of the jurisdiction of the judicial system here, which I know family courts outside of that. But my advice first of all, to men, do your homework on the family court system. I was under the impression that because I had financial resources, that I would have a good shot, that logic would prevail. And the law, it's in black and white. It's not. Don't go throwing your money, good money after bad money is my first piece of advice to those fathers who have some resources. And to those who don't, I think what we need to do is we need to come together like what we're doing here with this, what I'm doing on film, is get the word out to the right people. Because what I found out is everyday people know the problem with fathers trying to deal with the court system to see their children, because I was warned over and over, even by casual people I ran into, that when I mentioned, I'm in a court situation trying to get visitation of my son, I even attempted to get custody of him, and that, fathers never, they get taken advantage of in court. Fathers don't have any rights in the family court. I said, wow, if everyone knows this, then, not enough voices are being heard.
Love begins with promises and flower scents, and it feels like home. kisses taste like waterfalls on summer days. Don't let the seasons change, oh boy. And love can be so cold, like winter when it's dark, when it's over. I'm just guilty of giving all I had. I'm just guilty for thinking that you care.